that needs to.
Yeah, I guess I'm your audio tech. All right, folks, we are live on Facebook right now. Thanks for joining us. We'll get the news conference kicked off here in just a second. Got a couple of microphones to fix. Get everybody in place.
I know you're the pro,
here,
so. Oh,
let's
did I
move
spread
that.
all
No,
There
I'm
we go.
kidding you. Let's move it over the other
Oh,
side.
yes.
There you go. And for Brian, come on.
It wasn't upside down.
Clip. I don't like it. Take that and just kind of tuck it right below the belt. Yeah, that part of the wire. The rest of it's good. Everybody good? Yeah, absolutely. How about we use a real white one? All right. Everybody, thanks for coming this morning. We want to give you an idea of what's going to happen here today. You're going to be hearing from our supervising epidemiologist, Brian Hartle. You'll be hearing from the state's top doc, Dr. Eden Wells here. And then we're going to take you on a little tour to let you know how this assessment's going to be run. We'll take you on a quick tour through one of our clinic areas. You'll be able to see some of the stuff that's going on in the lab. We want you to understand that once this procedure begins and once we're in the middle of running all of these clinics, we're going to be moving a lot of people through here, and there will be no opportunity then at that point because of HIPAA regulations and because of privacy rights that we won't be able to welcome you in. So we wanted to give you this opportunity today to come in here, shoot some video, and get a better understanding of what it is we're trying to accomplish here and how we're working to serve the folks who are affected by this. Let's start off. Did you guys discuss who you'd like to start off
Kick it
first?
off, and then Brian will take it.
All
Does
right,
that
very
sound
good. Thank you.
He's the more knowledgeable on what's going on here. Hi, everybody. My name is Eden Wells. I'm the Chief Medical Executive for the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, and we are here working in partnership with the Kent County Health Department on the first of its kind study that you will be seeing here in the state of Michigan, and one of few that are being conducted around the United States. So the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Kent County Health Department are going to start beginning recruitment of participants for the North Kent County Per and Polyfluoroalkyl Substances, or PFAS, Exposure Assessment Study. The outreach to eligible households will begin this month. We're already halfway through November, and residents are invited to attend a community meeting which will be held on November 27th, 2018, so right after the Thanksgiving holiday. As Steve mentioned, things will be moving rather quickly. In order to ensure that North Kent County PFAS exposure assessment clinics run smoothly, because there will be a lot of people running through this clinic, and that the staff is prepared for residents to come in for interviews and blood testing, the Kent County Health Department and Michigan Department of Health and Human Services will be hosting this trial clinic, which is going on today, to ensure that policies and protocols are prepared for clinics to begin. Very often in the clinical setting, I would refer to this as a clinic flow study. Are people getting through timely? Do we know where to send them from one step to the next? Will there be any bottlenecks for getting their surveys completed versus blood drawn, etc.? Making sure that when people exit, they're getting the adequate information they need as being a volunteer participant in this work that will be being conducted. The PFAS exposure assessment will evaluate the relationship between drinking water with PFAS and the amount of PFAS that we'll be able to measure in the bodies of the participants in the study. This assessment will include collecting people's blood for PFAS testing and information on their activities that could result in PFAS exposure. So we will go, not in addition to drinking water, we may be asking about their work, potential exposures, past exposures in terms of what they may have had in their household that may have contained PFAS chemicals. All of these types of questions will help us to assess the types of exposures a resident here in North Kent County may have had in their life to PFAS. Kent County was chosen for this assessment, and this is the first of its kind being conducted in this state because no other area in Michigan frankly, has had so many wells exceeding the advisory level, nor are any of the test results as high as what we have experienced here in the North Kent County area. Thus, as we move forward here, as I mentioned before, it is the first of its kind to begin evaluating the health of residents in Michigan impacted by PFAS. But I want to make something that you all are aware, particularly in the media. This is not a health study. This is specifically called an exposure assessment study. And the reason for that is the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, which has developed the protocols and how to conduct evaluation of environmental chemicals that may impact the health of citizens in a community. It's a two-step process. First, you really need to quantify what was the level of exposure that occurred in that community. Quantify that, determine what other potential exposures may have occurred in the residents of that community, and then compare that to what people, on average in the United States may have been exposed to. As we all know, there is an average PFAS blood level for the different chemicals in U.S. citizens. We will be able to take results of these studies and compare to what is going on average. As we all know, we do expect some elevations, obviously, given the original findings, given the high levels of well water that we've experienced, and certainly anecdotally some blood levels that you all have reported on. Additional exposure, and then the health study may occur after the result of that exposure assessment study, depending upon those results. The next thing is an exposure assessment study. When ATSDR from the CDC, the Agency for Toxic Substances and Disease Registry, does this, it can take them up to 2 years to get a final report back. We will be quicker. It's not going to be 2 years, but please don't expect that we're going to have something finalized to you in the next couple of months. This is going to be a process where blood levels have to be analyzed, reports need to be done. This is actually falls into the realm of public health research, not just the routine surveillance we do. So 2019 is going to take the whole brunt, I think, of this study, as Brian and I were just discussing. Additional exposure assessments throughout the state are currently being considered by the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services, but this is the first one to actually begin. And as we said, it's beginning very quickly with the community meeting on November 27th. So I don't think I have anything more to add. I'm going to turn it over to Brian here at this time, who is an epidemiologist and thus understands a lot about constructing studies and how this data will be collected. And we are available for any questions afterwards. Brian?
Thank you. My name is Brian Huddle. Just want to take like looks like it's better. Check. Good. All right. Sorry about that. Let's readjust this. So again, my name is Brian Hartle. I'm one of the epidemiologists here at the Kent County Health Department. And today I just kind of want to talk to you about who's going to be invited to participate in this exposure assessment and kind of what patients can expect when they get here. As Eden mentioned, we're going through kind of a trial run today, but the Kent County Health Department has done several of these in the past. H1N1 back in 2009, we brought up hundreds of people through here to get their H1N1 vaccine. So we're well versed in how to move a lot of people through these clinics for this exposure assessment. Those individuals who will be invited to participate will have to meet certain eligibility criteria. Those people must currently live at a home that was tested and have lived there on or before January 1st, 2018. Now this is because exposure to PFAS must be current for the project to have scientifically meaningful results. People who no longer live at that home that could be selected do not have current exposure. So this is the current residents, as I mentioned, living there on or before January 1st, 2018. As you mentioned, the recruitment letters will start to go out this month and will continue through the spring 2019 to bring those individuals here for those tests. To give you an idea of what to expect when they're here, those clinic appointments will take about an hour and a half to complete. Both adults and children in that household can be tested, so everybody in that household that's eligible to participate can be tested during the exposure assessment. So first, when they get here, they'll check in the lobby, and they'll be directed to go through the exposure assessment. Basically, it's a questionnaire asking them questions about how they may have been exposed to PFAS. So that can be things that the water that they drank, food that they ate, their occupations that they have had, And so that's the first part. They'll go through a number of questions. As Eve mentioned, this is not a health study, but there will be some questions in there that include or around health conditions that may affect how PFAS is eliminated from the body. So those are things like diabetes or kidney disease that affects how PFAS is eliminated from a person's body. So that gives us an idea of different exposures, different ways that will affect the concentration in the blood. So once that exposure assessment is completed, or the questionnaire is completed, then they will go to a medical professional and have their blood drawn. The blood that's drawn is about 20 milliliters of blood, which is about 4 teaspoons of blood from a vein in their arm. So it's a minor poke, just a regular blood draw that they will have done there. Now, after the clinic appointment, we will schedule an appointment for sanitarians to go to their home to collect water. So this is exposure assessment that collects both blood and water. So it's about a 2-hour appointment. The sanitarians will come out and collect one or more water samples from their home. If they have a filter, it will be before the filter and after the filter, so they can expect to have their water sampled as well. And then after those samples are collected, they'll be sent to the MDHHS laboratory in Lansing to be tested. And then participants can choose to have their results sent to them. And if they choose to have them sent, they'll receive a letter containing those results for both their blood and their water test results. The time frame on that, we want to get this done as quickly as possible, but this is a scientific study. Make sure that we're crossing all our T's, dotting all our I's, making sure it's sound science, and so that may take up to 2 to 4 months for them to receive the results back via letter. I think that's kind of concludes the exposure assessment portion, what to expect while they get here. As Eden mentioned, we want people to get more information, residents of the community, so we want to encourage participation in our November 27th community meeting. Again, that's going to be held at Northview High School at 4451 Hunsberger Avenue Northeast in Grand Rapids. Again, Northview High School. Doors will open at 6 p.m. and presentations will begin at 6:30 p.m. that evening of November 27th. So I think that's all I've got. We're happy to open it up to some questions. Yes.
I don't have the bottom number, and I can probably get that, but this is funding that has been supplied in the majority part from the legislature for the state to assist local health departments with investigating PFAS. It is expensive, so I can put that up. This is not something that's going to take a lot of time. Corey, do you want to? Yeah, my brain was going to shoot out about $1 million. So, yeah. It is a budget for the Department of Health and Human Services provided by the legislature for polyfluorinated alkyl substances. We're looking at 400 and for 800 total.
About 800. So there's going to be 2 levels. So individuals in households with a 70 parts per trillion or higher, all those households.
So the high exposed.
Yeah.
Yep.
They'll all be invited to participate. And then below 70 parts per trillion, we'll do a sample. So we won't invite all those households to participate, but we'll invite about, 250 households maybe to get to that 400 participants in both of those groups.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're sending out letters starting this month, as you mentioned, and those will go out in waves. So that we're not going to send out all the letters at one time. They will go out in succession. So a group of letters sent this month and another one sent the following month. We do have the clinics. The first clinics that started are scheduled for December 8th here at the Kent County Health Department. But we're kind of going to ramp it up. So we're going to start with just a small number of participants at 25, just again to work out the kinks if we identify any of those. And then we have clinics that will be scheduled in the following months in 2019. But that will be the first clinic December 8th.
Yeah.
Right, the exposure area.
Right, and a lot of this, for instance, the trial today in the clinic will help inform, because you want to get waves of people, everybody can get the appropriate time. You don't want to bring everybody in at once, or else it'll get logged in. So it's a good way.
Also, I invite only people here to be part of the live in an area where there is PFAS, they're not part of it. It's tested.
Correct. Yeah.
Right, and then not we can't get everybody because there's obviously a lot more people than what the study can do, but we do need a sufficient number of people, both at the those who have tested 70 parts per higher and above, and those that have tested below 70 but are detectable, because we need power or strength in that study so that our findings will be strong, robust, and so that's why the 400 for each of the categories is very important. But we're doing this because we already have an idea of where the dose exposures are, the high and the lower, and this allows us to target the areas a bit better. But then again, it'll be randomly again for the smaller group as well.
You did it all. I was camping down being tidy about PFAS, people's fears about it.
Well, I think that one inevitably leads to the other, and Brian, you could weigh in too, but an exposure assessment is done to assess the impact of a chemical that is within the environment upon a community. So the first step, as I said, the difference between a health study and an exposure assessment study is here we're really quantifying, was the community significantly exposed and to what degree compared to the average U.S. citizen? And then that allows us to say, and these blood tests can't tell us, what your health outcomes are going to be or if your health problems currently are related to any of that. But I think knowledge is power, and this is an emerging contaminant. So the more that we can provide information for the community, because right now a lot of it is anecdotal. We have people whose wells have been high or people's blood levels have been high, and we need to capture all that and get kind of a robust findings that can help inform the whole community. So I think it accomplishes both, but it's a very important first step. As, for instance, we do not know whether this will lead to the health study where we actually compare health outcomes to potential water issues. That could be down the road, but in this sense, this is a very important, I think, next step to provide necessary information to this community and necessary information to the scientists who want to understand what happened in this community as a result of PFAS and in the environment. I don't know.
One more thing.
And I
What
mentioned
would it not need? What would the outcomes be where you say, well, we don't need to do a health study?
I think that if there were an issue, let's say that the average findings in the community were not necessarily elevated than the average U.S. citizens, and we're talking population level. I don't want to minimize an individual's blood level or the well. That's a very different issue. But as we look at community impacts, what we want to do is look at is there a significant level of exposure where we're going to say, compared to the U.S., this is, for instance, if you all are familiar with the C8 study that was done in the Ohio River Valley, there was a very high exposure within that environment and the surrounding this very large community of 60, 70,000 people. They were able to quantitate that and then subsequently do the health study because of their ability. They can actually take those blood levels and water levels and actually be able to look at potential health outcomes like they did. But you have to have I think the findings, what we would want to be able to do that with is you'd have to have a significantly higher level of exposure within the community compared to the average U.S. community. That helps.
Senator Peters had that summit.
Yes.
A couple days ago.
I don't want
Was that any assistance or are you corresponding with them?
They've been great partners. As I said, I think both our state and U.S. congressional and senatorial representatives have been incredibly supportive of the MPART and the Department of Health and Human Services, and they've always had an eye, which I love, and Senator Peters is the same way, for the support of local health departments, because really this is where it happens. When you see this clinic and you see the staff here today, local health departments, they're right here in the community wanting to find out what's going on. I find that hearings of any type that are in the community, whether they're held by Senator Peters or others, are always beneficial as long as people are getting as many of the questions answered. We realize we don't have a lot of answers to some of their questions right now because of what is not known about these chemicals, but the more we can do that, and similar to the hearing Senator Peters did, the better it is.
His whole thing was lowering that 7 parts down lower.
I think we're going to see EPA came out yesterday with some new toxicologic information on a couple of those polyfluorinated alkyl chemicals, two new ones, PFBS and Gen X is another one. We've seen the CDC come out with similar issues early this summer. Pretty much we're seeing local, state, and federal toxicology experts all trying to find out, where is the level of PFAS on a regulatory basis that can best protect the public health. Either way, when, as you know, in public health, Kent County State Health Department and any other local health departments that we work with, we'll probably, we make a more protective act. We'll put people on filters and give alternate water. We don't wait for 70 if we think that there's a chance for a plume moving towards somebody's well. But those regulatory issues are important, and probably we hope to see some things begin to manifest or emerge from DC in the next year.
How do you think these are being looked for and reported?
There's about 24 different types of PFAS that will be tested in the blood.
I know that some of the people who have gone and had their bloods tested from their own population, they said it's been instructive to give the doctors to even these blood tests. Do you think this will lead to more physicians around the state kind of looking at the county blood tests? And maybe this is something that we're looking at too?
This is a different issue than going to the doc, and there's a reason. I think one of the things we've learned about blood testing, and please be sure to weigh in, Brian, because you've had a lot of experience, I know, here in Kent County. Individually, if a person were to come into my clinic and say, I want my level in my blood tested, and some people really, hey, they're curious, or they know their water was high, and I would work with them to do that, but they would have to know that I would not know what to do with that blood result. Yeah, I would not know, does that mean that they're going to have a certain disease outcome? Does it have, do I know, will it affect their, how many years they live, any of that? I just won't be able, because we just don't know. We only have these association studies done on a population level, particularly from the C8 study. So in general, not recommended, because clinically we don't have the knowledge or the treatment or anything in which to do about a blood level. However, blood levels are important in a study such as this when you're part of a protocol that's looking at a community impact. Similar to this population study that was done in C8 in the southern Ohio River Valley, what we can do is at a population level begin to determine impacts on a community, even if we can't determine the individual health outcome. If that is it.
Everything else.
You're easy. I could just say.
You're fine. I mean, yeah, that's the thing. I think that when the people receive the results, they'll just know the level at that point in time. Like as Eden said, it doesn't mean that the certain health condition that they have was caused by that PFAS. It doesn't mean they're at higher risk for future health conditions. It just can tell you what that level is at that point. And I think that's the difficulty with physicians, is that you can't interpret that. What's the level? It comes back. I mean, you get a high cholesterol level, you know that you're at higher risk for heart disease. But with a level of PFAS, there's really no evidence out there that shows you at this level of PFAS, you're at higher risk for certain conditions. So that and that
can be a confusing part of the study, right? But for looking at a whole population, we can at least in this exposure assessment study determine whether this northern Kent community has been exposed to a higher level compared to that of the average U.S. population.
So this study was at high levels of PFAS exposure.
Well, we automatically know that. What we're going to be doing now is by testing the water and the blood, be able to do that across a sample of the population that we know has been exposed, but now we actually have the water and the blood and able to look across that whole high number. So we're looking at 800 data points or so, depending on, a little more or a little less. So that helps quantify that a bit better, rather than, we already know about a couple of very high levels and such. We don't have any of those blood results, so as part of a study, we can do this methodologically sound where we can have the water level, the blood level, and then make those determinations.
So the fact that there's these
Oh.
we have built in actually to go up there. So if you want, we can do one more question, or we can wrap it up and grab the books here.
Is there any interaction with Wolverine at all?
For the exposure assessment study, not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay.
No, this is primarily our partnership with the local health department. Our epidemiologists are working with the epidemiologist here, along with the environmental health folk, specialists, toxicologists, and such. And I was actually impressed. This is the first time I've actually been in the clinic. So everybody's been working together. I think they've been here for the last day or two, kind of getting things rolling. So it's quite the partnership. But this is within, I think, the public health purview.
Dumb question. PFAS or PFAS? Is there, you have a term?
Wow, I always say PFAS, PFAS. Yeah, and I'm not saying if I'm right, but it does get confusing with the PFOS, so which we try to say PFOS. So, yeah, PFAS and PFAS would be probably the way to go for the whole collection of chemicals.
Can you just quickly wrap up for the residents who are watching on Facebook Live?
Sure.
What to expect next, and then we can go ahead and
Hi, we're going to be going off to the clinic to do a tour of the clinic at this time, and there will be some discussions about what goes on in the blood draws, laboratory, and will you be able to come along for Facebook?
Not on Facebook.
Oh, not on Facebook.
I do have one quick question though. One of our Facebook viewers out there is saying this is not an emerging contaminant
Mhm.
because it has been in our systems and in our world since the 1940s. Can you comment on that and help maybe clarify
Oh,
what you
that's
mean by emerging contaminant?
Excellent question. Well, in the way that we look at this in public health or even within the EPA, what makes it emerging? Yes, the chemicals have been around a while, but what makes it emerging is that I don't think that the knowledge is base about how this chemical persisted in the environment or how it can persist in people's blood was really well understood until the last decade, and that really makes it new because much of the science that we would normally understand about many chemicals we don't have for PFAS. We don't understand, for instance, if I'm exposed to this amount of PFAS in my blood for this amount of years, what will that do to my health? I can do that with things like dioxin. I can do that with lead. I cannot do that with PFAS. So emerging is probably more a term used in understanding how this chemical interacts with the human body.
Thank you.
You bet, Steve. Okay, we'll be taking off to do a tour and answering more questions of the lobby and the clinic. And thank you all for joining us out there in the Facebook.
Folks, thanks for joining the King County Health Department this morning. We look forward to bringing you more of this kind of information as its information becomes available. Thanks. Have a great day.